Hello everybody, my name is Nazar Sackley and this is my presentation on Cuba. So an overview of Cuba, some personal interactions with Cuba. I myself am half Cuban, I'm half Cuban and half Tunisian, so I have a deep and personal connection with Cuba itself. I actually went there in 2012 when Obama opened it up, so I got to see firsthand how the Cuban people and how Cuba just operate. So the four categories of my presentation are history, politics, economics, and creative production. I chose these four because I feel like Cuba itself has a really deep, rich history in terms of the Spanish conquest and all the other things that have gone on in Cuba's history. Politics, Cuba is one of the only communist nations in the world, so it's got a deep-rooted history in politics and just, its ties and its turmoils with the U.S. and stuff like that. Economics, it's obviously a communist nation, so it has a communist planned economy, so it's kind of interesting on that front. And creative production, in terms of Celia Cruz, Jose Martin, and all the other people that have come out of Cuba, it's just a factory for creative minds. So the history, Cuba is a Spanish colony. The island was native to the indigenous people prior to 1492 and Christopher Columbus's arrival as a result of the Spanish expedition. During the 15th century, Spanish conquest begins under the leadership of Diego de Velázquez, who establishes Barcoa and other settlements, as well as the importation of African slaves. From then on, Spain begins to colonize most of Cuba, and with a short time, Cuba was under British rule for about, let's say, a couple years, 3, 4, 5 years. In the 18th century, they started the 10 Years' War for Independence, which ends in a truce with Spain promising reformation. However, these promises were never met, as per usual, colonizers. Soon after, slavery was abolished in Cuba, which allowed for Jose Martin to lead the Second War for Independence, where this time the U.S. declared war on Spain, which turned into the Spanish-American War. In 1898, the U.S. defeats Spain, which gives up all claims to Cuba and sucedes it to the U.S. So the second part of my history is Fulgencio Batista and his regime. So as a result of Spanish independence, Cuba falls under U.S. rule, where they begin to be a puppet country for the U.S. until the rise of Fulgencio Batista and his military coup. This starts, Batista actually had two rulings in Cuba, one from 1933 to 1944, where he governed the country and most effectively, he expanded educational systems, he sponsored huge programs for public works, and he fostered growth of the economy. His second term, however, became an oppressive dictatorship from the times of 1952 to 1959, where he could be seen jailing his opponents, using terrorist methods, and making fortunes for himself and his associates. His regime, however, was overthrown by Fidel Castro and Che Guevara. So another part of the history, Communist Party Cuba to present day. Castro leads a 9,000-strong guerrilla army into Havana, forcing Batista to flee, which he then ends up fleeing to the US. Castro becomes the prime minister, and his brother Raul, who is now, I think, one of the secretaries of the Communist Party in Cuba, I could be mistaken, and Che Guevara becomes his deputy or third in command. As Castro takes command, the U.S. begins to cut off all ties with Cuba, as we see with the Cuban Missile Crisis and how JFK's embargo is still in effect today. The U.S. sponsors an abortive invasion by Cuban exiles called the Bay of Pigs. Castro proclaims Cuba a communist state and begins to ally itself with the USSR, i.e. Russia. From then until now, Cuba has remained a communist state. And as you can see in the bottom left corner, the PCC is the Cuban Communist Party. And on the right corner is Che Guevara and Fidel Castro. So politics, Cuba is one of the world's only communist nations. They are based on the socialist mantra, one state, one party. The most recent leader was Raul Castro, who held the title of First Secretary of the Communist Party of Cuba and is the most powerful position in Cuba. As of 2019, Miguel Diaz-Canel is now the president of Cuba and is likely to succeed Raul Castro as the first secretary in 2021, i.e. this year. Cuba allies itself with other like-minded nations like Vietnam and Russia. Talks between Cuba and the U.S. resumed in the Obama administration for the first time since the Cuban Missile Crisis, but halted with the coming of then President Trump. The U.S. has placed an embargo with JFK in 1962, which is still in effect, and this is why some say Cuba is stuck in a time capsule. This relates to the Power in the Story and by Miguel Trujillo, as it talks about historicity and how history is told from the perspective of the winners and never the losers. Because myself, when I went to Cuba, a lot of people say Cuba's, they hate the Communist Party, it's different, why their life sucks. People there are very happy. Even the ones that don't have a lot, they are very happy. They love their country. I actually went to a Communist Party rally in Cuba, and there was a lot more people than I actually expected, and it was honestly kind of surprising and shocking to see all the people and their love for their country. So the economy, like I said before, it's a planned economy dominated by state-run enterprises. The state kind of dominates most of the production and stuff like that, and private capital. Cuba actually has two currencies, which is the convertible Cuban peso, referred to as the COC, and the Cuban peso. The COC is used for payment in the private sector versus the Cuban peso being the method to use to pay all state employees. Right now, the exchange rate is 24 Cuban pesos to 1 COC. The COC is allowed to be converted into foreign currency as it is a soft currency, while the Cuban peso is a hard currency and cannot be converted as a state currency. Originally, the COC was meant for tourists to bolster the economy, but it ended up spreading to every part of the economy. Anyone who works for the state, doctors, police officers, are at a serious disadvantage compared to those who are in charge of these because they're paid in COC, or no, they're not paid in COC, they're paid in Cuban peso, which is not convertible, versus people like taxi drivers and restaurateurs who deal with the tourists are paid in COC. And I actually had a first-hand experience with this in terms of dealing with the COC versus the Cuban peso, as the COC is kind of what everyone wants to be paid in. So people refer to the COC as like the dollar, and the Cuban peso is just the peso. I remember vividly, we bought a little pizza with the Cuban peso that was, I think it was like 5 cents for a massive piece of pizza in terms of the US, if you did the conversion rate. So it's just funny to see how people get paid, that our state workers get paid in the Cuban peso versus the COC, which is kind of like the monetary method that can be distributed all around the world. So Jose Martin and the creative influence. Jose Martin is a Cuban poet, essayist, political organizer, teacher, diplomat, and orator. He's a key revolutionary for the Cuban Revolution and he against Spain, and his post-mortem ideas helped fuel Fidel in the takeover of his country. His poem, Versos Sencillos, inspired the famous Cuban folk song Guantanamera. The first 4 verses were adopted by the first 4 stanzas of the poem, and this is referred to in our class as I Am an Honest Man. I actually have a deep connection to this song, Guantanamera, because like I said, I am Cuban, and my family, they love this song, so we always kind of play it at our family parties, and it's always just something to hear, and I actually did not know the history behind this song. I didn't know it had any connection to Jose Martin himself, and it was kind of very interesting to kind of learn this through this class. And I actually talked to my aunt about it, and she was like, yeah, I'm surprised you didn't know, kind of gave me a little, knock on the head saying I should know better, but, at least I'm learning now. So Jose Martin means so much to Cuba as he is a symbol of Cuban independence, and he was very influential to the culmination of the Communist Party. And in the little corner, you can see the picture of the Jose Martin statue in Old Havana. I actually went to this statue, and I thought it was just mesmerizing just to see how much people love and adore this man, as he is kind of like one of the symbols of kind of independence and freedom from the oppressor, and I think it's just very interesting to see. And honestly, I had a great time in Cuba, and I was really happy I was able to choose this country as my presentation because I know a lot about it, and I have a deep kind of personal connection as I am Cuban to it. So yeah, that's my works cited, and that's it.